Hello friend, welcome back to Auto Resource YouTube channel. Welcome back to my Subaru garage. Keeping myself busy. I have 2010 Subaru Outback here today, and it came for the rear brakes and the front brakes. Some mechanics will call this gravy. Today I'm doing a gravy regarding to them. So I started with this side. There's no space for the camera here. So these already has brand new ceramic expensive pads. It has resurfaced rotor. This one is completely torqued and done. I better remove this hanger from here, right? And don't forget it, if it turn like that, you will not even see it. And then the customer or you go on test drive and it will be rattling there. So that needs to be removed. Here are just lug nuts and my tool, so we can go together to the other side. And if you are interested how this brake job is done on this vehicle, stay with me in this video. And it's pretty obvious to everybody that I safely raise the vehicle and remove the wheels, right? These lug nuts were 19 millimeters, so if you need a wrench for that, that's what you need. And I continue with removing the brake caliper, which is right here, and it holds those brake pads inside, right? For that, I will use 14 millimeter socket. It shouldn't be so hard to undo them. It's always when you film, they're standing in weird positions and awkward positions, but that's okay. What I will do for you for filming it, right? So 2 bolts, one on the top, one of the bottom. The caliper will still stay there even if I remove those bolts, so you don't need to be worried about it. Here are 2 small 14 millimeters. As I said, there's way less torque than on the coming ones. Now this caliper, if I push a little bit on that piston to get it loose, I have it free. Now you saw on the other side, this is the hanger. You never hang, the caliper is heavy, it's pretty heavy. You never hang it on that brake line because you don't want to damage it. So here comes the hanger on the strut. This is the way, correct way, how you're supposed to do that. Now I can very easily remove the old brake pads, right? You just slide them out. You see this one here? This one has remaining 2 millimeters. Customer chosen to replace them. And this is the rear one, right? So I have these two. And I would like to remove the rotor and put it on my brake light. Well, this whole part is in my way, so I need to remove that right now. And I will try to show you both those bolts which are holding it. Do you see it right here? Perfect. The camcorder was able to show it. 17 millimeter, 17 millimeter. This one is easy, the access. This one is problematic because if you want to put a socket on it and the ratchet, this bolt is in the way. So, and as I mentioned before, these bolts are always very tight. I highly recommend to you to have a half drive ratchet or even the breaker button, right? So, right here, is it correct? Yeah. I made a mistake in the beginning, but this is it. This is the bottom one, and the top one, as I said, this won't fit there. So I have an alternative way to deal with it. For that, I will just use a simple, cheap 17 millimeter wrench. I will carefully place it on it and observing the safety and so on, right? This is the rotation. Again, I'm sorry I'm getting in your way, but this is not easy here to film. I will just use that sledgehammer. Hopefully you saw it. And I will. Both bolts are loose. I'm starting with the top one, just by the fingers, right? I will remove those, and this entire part of the brake assembly will go away for me. I will be able to remove it, right? See that? So first of all, two large 17mm bolts. Here is that entire assembly, and I have finally access to that brake rotor. I am right now in Northern California, so there should be no problem to pull that rotor off because we have a minimal of a rust here. So let's see, I didn't touch it yet. Oh yeah, did you see that? Very, very easy. If there is any rust on this hub, it's very much only the surface. These two parts weren't stuck together. Now I'm going to clean all that rust before putting it on the brake light. And I will use this steel brush, right, to remove the imperfections which are on the surface from that rust buildup. It's recommended that you wear a mask if you do that. Because you don't want to be breathing in this fine dust. Don't forget, if you do that, don't forget, especially on this side. And the area right here. Alright, this rotor is ready to go on the brake light. Here you can see this hub after we remove that brake rotor, and we will come back to it very soon. Right now let me show you that front brake rotor being resurfaced, right? It's on the brake light. If you are curious how this all works, I made a two-part very detailed videos about how to set it up, how to operate it. I believe it's on my other channel, which is called Toyota Maintenance. So you are watching the first cut, right? You see that shiny silver area, that's already where those knives remove that material. To be always careful around this. You don't want to get caught by this machine on your clothes or something. So this is being done for us. Let's go back to the car. If I want to have that rotor and that hub being seated perfectly with each other, right, I have to clean this rust also. And look, you don't have to have any power tools. Even simple brush will do the work, but I have to admit that power tools always make it faster, right? It's less work and you can speed up everything. And what do you say? This should be clean enough and ready, right? What I forgot to tell you in all that excitement, that before I even started working on those brakes, I used this syringe. This one is dedicated for brake fluid in the shop, and I removed, you can see the rag up there, I removed some fluid from that brake fluid reservoir, because when you start pushing the pistons in the calipers and you do the job front and rear, actually I will have an overflow. The brake fluid will spill from it up there and it will be then dripping through the engine and so on. So I had to lower the level in that brake fluid reservoir prior pressing the pistons in the calipers, which you will see in just a second. And the rotors, or the rotor, is being turned down, right? Being cleaned and resurfaced, so I can continue with this part, right? This needs to be also cleaned before I will be putting it back. So I will remove this hardware. It should pull off. Again, it shouldn't be rusted together. This vehicle came in pretty good shape, right? And I have to remove possible rust buildup in this area, right? So I'm showing you what do you do if you have a cheaper brake pads. If you purchase something in the price level of $30, it doesn't come with this new hardware, right? I bought a very expensive one, the Select Ceramics, so it actually came with all this steel hardware. But I'm just showing you what you do if you don't have it. You need to remove that rust. Now the next step is clean this right above the garbage can, and you can reuse it if it's not damaged. That's totally reusable. It doesn't have to be replaced. Meanwhile, the brake light stopped running, right? You don't hear it anymore because I have here brand spanking new, beautifully looking, almost new looking resurfaced rotor. What do you say? Isn't it beautiful? Definitely in this case it was worth, right? It was worth resurfacing. The rotors were in extremely good shape. Of course, sometimes if the rotors are thin or damaged or rusted, I will not recommend resurfacing them. I will just use new ones, but in this case it will be a waste. I have completely cleaned all these surfaces, right? They are ready. And I paid extra money today for the more expensive brake pads, so why not to use what I paid for, right? Here you can see it again. This is that brand new stuff. There will be one more step on this part. Needs to be done, rather will be done before I'm putting it back, and it's lubricating these sliding pins. It's really important. Make sure they are fully looped, right? Because they are basically in charge of that floating function. The whole caliper is floating, right? So I'm using this super high temperature synthetic grease for that. As many of you know, when we brake, either for a prolonged time or intensively, there's a lot of heat buildup, right? So you are just using expensive stuff on this, and I'm making sure that they are perfectly pumping up and down, right? They are not dragging or something. So this part is ready to go back. That means I need to grab those two 17mm bolts, right? Those big ones. And get on my knees here and start putting it together. As I said, the bottom one is easy because the access it's easy, right? And I will wait. I will first do the top one. Where is my 70mm? You remember, right? It's right here. So there's that hard access. So I will carefully use the sledgehammer and feel for the torque. I remember how much it moved when I was undoing it, so this should be exactly good right now. Let me just recheck. Yep, that's it. I will finish tightening right now the bottom one, torquing. And I know they are safely in the place. And finally we can go back with those brake pads, right? So these ones were expensive, as I shared with you. These are ceramics, so they should be better at braking and last longer, right? I again will use very tiny amounts of this lube and put it in this area where the brake pad is touching that hardware, that new shiny hardware, that steel parts, right, where that is happening, I'm putting very small amount of this loop so the brake pad can be nicely working there. So, excuse me, right, you put it in, you match it on the top, and look at it, it's perfectly seated in. I will do exactly the same with the one on the back. So I have perfectly installed outer and inner brake pad, right? It's really beefy. And I would like to put back the whole caliper, right? But look at it. The pistons are too far out. As the pads were getting smaller and smaller, the pistons kept coming out. So now I need to push these two pistons back in the brake caliper. And for that job I'm using this Blue Point. It's a BTC P500, right, spreader. So look at that, it's very easy, it's very helpful. I put it right here and I will start ratcheting that whole system, and it will start spreading. I'm careful with that hanger here. It will start pushing this way the pistons in. You do it slowly, right? You cannot be rushing because there is hydraulic pressure, right? But very slowly you can see they are disappearing. Those pistons which were out, they are disappearing, they are being pushed into the caliper. I'm being careful when I'm getting to the end. I don't want to put too much pressure on anything here. So I'm watching. That should be definitely enough. So I will reverse the ratcheting system. Did you hear the click? And now basically it became smaller and I can remove it. After that I can undo this finally, the hanger, put it away, right? See, the pistons are in and I'm able to carefully place it on those brake pads. Now you have to pay attention to the details. These floating devices which are here, where the bolts goes inside, right? They have a special notches. Now I just grab my ratcheting 14mm, right? And these bolts are definitely not being torqued so much like those 17s, right? This is softer material. This is kind of soft part. So once again, is this matching perfectly? Yes, both of them are correct. Now I will tighten it. You can use the bigger ratchet if you want, but I know how to feel those. You don't want to strip them or break that bolt, but look at that beauty. Let me grab the camera and show you the details. And look how cool everything it is, right? This is the detail of those asymmetrical areas. You see kind of notch, right? So pay attention to that. It's the same on the bottom, but look, beautiful brake, new beefy brake pads, perfectly resurfaced rotor, right? This is wonderful. And now of course you are ready to put the wheels back, right? Correctly torque the lug nuts, right? It's approximately 110 Newton meters, so let's pay attention to it. Check the brake fluid level in your reservoir, right? If you need to pour more, add it so you are on the max. If you have too much, remove it, right? So you are touching just the max level so it doesn't overflow. And also very important, don't forget please, when you get in the car, don't start it up and put it in the reverse or forward immediately. No, you have to first start pumping that brake pedal because it will be completely soft and going to the floor at least 3-4 times, right? So first make sure your brake pedal is hard, then you start up, and you can go carefully on your test drive. Always make sure after doing brakes that you do part of this job needs to be a test drive. You will confirm that everything is working correctly. Also, don't forget this hanger there, right? That can happen. You just left it there, you slapped the wheel, you don't see it. It should be painted orange or something, it's more visible. Unfortunately it's not. I forgot it once hanging on that strut, and the customer came back in a few days and they were like, oh my god, something's rattling. So then, you know, you don't know what you did bad, and it was just the hanger. So that's all. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you like it. I hope maybe it will encourage you to do your own. Just please be safe. Always observe safety when you're lifting the car and so on. This is the most important thing. Be safe. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. I will always film a lot of Subaru stuff for this channel. See you later, my friend.